Love X Revenge. This is a story where fate doesn't knock politely. It kicks the door in during the worst storm of the year, drags the past into the present, and forces ordinary people to make extraordinary choices. She was just a waitress, and most days, that was all anyone ever saw. Clara Hayes tied her apron every morning at Rosie's diner with the same quiet ritual. 2 knots, tight enough not to slip, loose enough to breathe. She poured coffee, smiled at truckers who never remembered her name, wiped down counters, and collected tips that barely paid for the bus ride home. At 26, her dreams had learned to whisper instead of shout. Life had taught her that hoping too loudly only invited disappointment. The storm rolled in on a Tuesday night. By 6 p.m., rain hammered the windows like angry fists, and the wind howled so hard the neon sign flickered. Rosie, the owner, wanted to close early, but stranded drivers and soaked pedestrians kept pushing through the door. Clara worked non-stop, her sneakers squelching on the tile, her hands red from hot plates and cold drafts. That's when the elderly woman came in. She was tiny, wrapped in a thin gray coat that had no business being out in weather like this. Her white hair was plastered to her forehead, and she leaned heavily on a cane. Water pooled around her shoes as she stood just inside the door, clearly overwhelmed by the noise and warmth. No one moved. People noticed her, then looked away. Clara felt that familiar tightening in her chest, the one that came when she saw herself in someone else's loneliness. She rushed over. "Ma'am, please, sit here," Clara said gently, guiding her to a booth near the heater. She grabbed a towel, dabbed at the woman's hands, and brought her a cup of tea without even asking for payment. "Thank you, dear," the woman said, her voice trembling. "I didn't think I'd make it home tonight." "What's your address?" Clara asked. "When the storm eases, I'll help you find a ride." The woman smiled sadly. "I don't have one anymore." Before Clara could respond, the door burst open again, this time with a blast of rain and cold that silenced the room. The man who stepped inside didn't look like he belonged anywhere humble. His coat was expensive, his shoes polished despite the weather, his posture rigid like someone used to being obeyed. He scanned the diner with sharp, assessing eyes, irritation etched into his face. "Is this place even safe?" he muttered. Rosie bristled, but Clara got there first. "Sir, you're welcome to wait out the storm. Coffee's hot." He hesitated, then nodded curtly. "Fine." He took the stool at the counter, checking his phone with increasing frustration. No signal. Clara poured his coffee and set it down without comment. She'd learned that some people didn't want conversation, just service. The storm worsened. Thunder cracked so loudly that the elderly woman gasped, clutching the edge of the table. Clara rushed back, kneeling beside her. "It's okay," she soothed. "You're safe here." The man at the counter watched this interaction more closely than he meant to. There was something about the way Clara moved, calm, instinctive kindness without performance, that unsettled him. Minutes later, the power went out. The diner plunged into darkness, broken only by emergency lights and the glow of lightning outside. Someone cursed. Another customer left in a panic, braving the rain. Rosie announced they were closing immediately. "I can't leave her," Clara said, nodding to the elderly woman. "Then you stay," Rosie replied. "I'll lock up. But be careful." The man stood. "You can't stay here alone." Clara raised an eyebrow. "I'm not alone." The elderly woman looked between them and chuckled softly. "Seems the storm has decided we're companions for the night." Reluctantly, the man sighed. "My driver can't reach me. Roads are flooded." He extended his hand. "Jonathan Reed." Clara didn't react. She had no idea that the name belonged to one of the most powerful billionaires in the state. Clara. They sat in the dim diner as rain lashed the windows, 3 strangers bound by circumstance. Over the next hour, something unexpected happened. Jonathan spoke less. He listened more. He heard Clara talk about her mother, gone too soon, about working double shifts, about wanting to study nursing someday. He watched her tuck a napkin around the elderly woman's shoulders, share her own sandwich without hesitation, and laugh softly to keep fear at bay. The elderly woman, Margaret, eventually fell asleep, her head resting against the booth. "She has no family," Clara whispered. "Her landlord threw her out last week." Jonathan's jaw tightened. That's illegal. Doesn't stop it from happening, Clara replied. When the storm finally eased near dawn, headlights swept across the windows. A black SUV pulled up. Jonathan stood. I can arrange a place for her. Tonight. And ongoing care. Clara studied him, wary. Why? He met her gaze. Because I should have done it long ago. And because you reminded me of something I forgot. Margaret was taken somewhere warm and safe. Clara declined Jonathan's offer of a ride home, choosing the bus instead. She assumed that was the end of it. It wasn't. 2 weeks later, Clara was fired. The diner had been sold overnight. New management. No explanation. No severance. Clara walked out in the rain again, her apron folded under her arm, anger and fear swirling inside her. That afternoon, she received a letter. Inside was an offer for a full scholarship to a private nursing program. Tuition, housing, a stipend, no strings attached. At the bottom was a note, you didn't ask for help. That's why you deserve it. She knew exactly who it was from. Months passed. Clara studied, worked, and volunteered at a care center where she often visited Margaret, now healthy and smiling. Life felt unreal, like a borrowed dream. Then the truth surfaced. The diner had been sold to a shell company owned by Jonathan Reed. He had shut it down after discovering that Rosie had been illegally underpaying staff for years. Some called it justice. Others called it revenge. When Clara confronted him, her voice shook. You changed my life without asking. Jonathan nodded. And you changed mine by doing the opposite. Silence stretched between them, thick with everything unspoken. I don't want to owe you, she said. You don't, he replied. But I do want to know you. What grew between them was slow, careful, built on long conversations and shared values rather than grand gestures. Love, when it came, was quiet but unshakable. Years later, when Clara stood in her nursing uniform, Jonathan sat beside Margaret in the front row, watching her graduate. The storm that once threw them together had long passed, but its consequences remained. She had been just a waitress. Until a storm revealed her heart, an elderly woman reflected her kindness, and a billionaire learned that the greatest power in the world is knowing when to change. And sometimes, love and revenge look exactly the same, depending on which side of kindness you stand.